All right. Welcome back, everybody. It's another Tuesday. My name's Jack, and you are joining us for another episode of Talk Openly. Welcome back.
Here
And
we are.
here with my friend Daniel. Daniel's in Sacramento, which Daniel, is it still cooking down there?
Oh yeah, they let off the heat just a little bit, so it's not record-breaking temperatures, but it's still warm. But at least there's a little breeze, and it is cool in the mornings, which is really
Okay.
nice. I went
What is
outside.
cool?
Oh, cool in the morning, like 60 degrees,
Okay.
like chill,
Yeah.
like downright. I was maybe not sick. Okay, I take that back. Upper 60s. But
Yeah.
I was just the morning when I got up, I did a little meditation outside, and I was just in shorts and a t-shirt, and I actually got a little chilly.
Yeah. That's kind of
Yeah.
nice. Changing it
Oh,
up.
totally, totally. It just indicates that nothing, even the weather, is permanent. Uh,
Yeah, yeah, including our Earth, right?
yeah, exactly, exactly
I was
that.
curious a little bit, like, what's the vibe? Like, are people like weirded out? Like, hey, this isn't normal, or
No, I think that we accept that it's normal and that this is probably the coolest summer like of all the coming summers, right?
yeah,
And I think it really seems like, I mean, certainly among people in Sacramento, there's a great awareness of like, yeah, it's all, heating up, the weather systems are changing, and that changingness, that change in the climate um is is now normalized.
isn't that weird? Yeah,
We can get used to anything, Jack.
we really can. Yeah, I was texting with my mom the other day, and she was saying that it was 114 degrees in Santa Clarita. And I was like, wow, that seems a little extreme. And she was like, well, we're in low desert, you know. And I was
Yeah.
like, Mom, it's still like you're not supposed to get to 114. So yeah,
Yeah.
it is really interesting. Yeah, that it's just kind of like we're adapting.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
Um,
exactly. Do you experiencing anything like that up there in Washington?
yes, yeah, it's the Eastern Washington is about as hot as you guys. And here in Western Washington, the closer you get to the water, the better it is, kind of like,
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
California. But in Seattle today, I guess there was some record-breaking heat. I mean, a couple years ago, we got to like 113 in Seattle, but I guess it was maybe like a record of days,
Yeah.
but of being in the high 90s for many days, which is very unusual. Yeah, this is new for people. And there's not a lot of air conditioning around here too, unless you're like, in stores and whatnot. But a lot of the older homes don't have air conditioning.
Oh, speaking of air conditioning, Jack,
Yeah,
can I tell you a little story?
yeah.
So, I went out, a friend of mine was house sitting for some rich people out uh somewhere around, like, out in the country past Woodland.
Mm.
And I they invited me to come swimming, and I was like, man, it's freaking hot. Like, sure, I'll come, I'll drive out, we'll go swim, we'll have a good time.
Yeah.
And so we go out there, and everything, it was all groovy. It's really nice, beautiful property. They have horses, and it's like, it's like a rich person's place.
Mm.
And and then and then my friend says, "Hey, do you want to see their car collection? They have a really nice car collection out in this, like, big metal, like, warehouse looking sort of building, right?
Yeah.
Uninsulated, as far as I know, just metal sort of building." And I was like, "Yeah, yeah, sure. Let's go take a look at the cars." Anyway, we go out there, and he opens up the door, and I get hit with a blast of ice cold air. The entire building, which is used for nothing more than the storage of old classic cars, was being air conditioned to about 65 degrees.
Oh my goodness.
And then I thought, man, think about all those people in Sacramento who are out on the streets, and they have to have, like, cooling shelters,
Yeah.
and they don't have water and all of that. I just like it made me kind of sick to my stomach, you know. I was just
Yeah,
like this disparity, and that's nothing. I mean, these people were probably like upper middle class, you know, as far as American wealth distribution goes,
right.
you know, and to think about this disparity between the haves and the have-nots, and it's just that divide's growing. It made me really sad,
Yeah,
especially
yeah,
as things are getting hotter and hotter and more expensive and all that. I'm like, whew, it's unbelievable.
yeah. It does hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's certainly um testing, I think, our I don't know, our bodhisattva goals, right? Which is equanimity.
Yeah.
And yeah, I feel pretty angry around stuff like that.
Yeah. Wait. So wait, bodhisattvas don't eat the rich, right? Is it
Well, I don't, maybe in some context,
maybe in some kind of a spiritual way?
yeah. Well, there's this really funny, and we will, whoever's listening, we are going to get to the topic of the human realm eventually. I just wanted to throw that out there. Um, but there's this sadhana that I've done. I can't remember right now which sadhana it is. But at one point, they're talking about how like all the worst creatures like on Earth. And they kind of list it like the demons and the zombies and the landlords.
Yeah. Oh.
And apparently, so Lama asked, this teacher who translated the sadhana, like, is that word like the same in, Tibetan as English? Like, are we talking about the same landlord? And he's like, yeah, that's what
Yeah.
that
Yep.
is.
I love it. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Uh,
So it's like, yeah, we don't want to dominate
no.
this land. There's no owning this land, and it's all ours, and we got to take care of one another. It's
Yeah,
getting
we
hot out
do.
there.
That was a good story. I liked it. Thank you for sharing it. That's
Thank you
awesome.
for sharing.
I
Yeah,
got a
that
good
was
laugh.
fascinating. What's going on? But
Yep, yep, yep. But what else is going on with you? How's life and how's your meditation practice and all that jazz?
yeah, so I've been practicing basic kindness. It just probably sounds kind of funny, but I actually for Lama's birthday, which was, is it June 30th? It was I think June 30th.
Okay.
And then we celebrated it on Sunday, this last Sunday.
Yeah.
Um, I decided that for the next year, every day I'm going to make a concerted effort to say hello and be open to a conversation with someone I don't know. And that probably sounds pretty simple to some people, maybe
Yeah.
maybe people who are more extroverted or, enjoy talking to strangers. But for me, like it is something that I actually actively avoid. Unless I'm feeling like really positive and really like energized, like then I might be like, hey, what's up? But on my everyday where I'm just trying to get through the day, I'm trying to work, I'm on my schedule so that I can get things done and then go home,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, something that I consider like a sacrifice of like my time and my energy is like having just like a one-off conversation with someone. Um, and so I thought that that actually might be a good gift because it's something that I, don't necessarily want to give up, which is like, possibly some of my spare time. And also like kind of my introversion. So
Yeah.
can I like extrovert a little bit and try and make contact with someone, be kind to someone, share a little bit of goodness in the world. And it's so interesting. So I started it on Sunday, and then on Monday I went into to work. And it turns out that just planting that seed of one person means that I end up being nice to pretty much everyone else that I encounter, right? And I'm like smiling and saying hi to people in the hallways and like having conversations, just like small conversations with random people. And so I think it might be a good year. I think it might be a really cool year for me.
Well, what a great gift. And I can kind of imagine how it would blossom like that or expand like that, but I'm curious, how does it feel subjectively?
It feels nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does.
Not so tight,
Um,
right? More
Not so
open.
tight.
Yeah.
Um, and you know, it really affects my mood, right? It's like it, even if I'm kind of like at first a little bit acting or, kind of fake
Yeah.
it till you make it,
Right, right.
um, inevitably it kind of rolls into like, being very genuine. So it's just kind of fun. And I'm going to be reporting back to Llama how it goes, like during darshans and,
Dude,
obstacles that come up and all different things. So yeah, it's just kind of fun.
dude, hell yeah, Jack. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Well, that's I hope that you'll report to us as well.
I will. Yeah. Well, and I think if it goes anything like the past couple days, I might have a lot more friends next year.
You
I
know,
got
I
two phone numbers today, of
yeah.
people that were like, let's hang out.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. And that yeah, that well that opens up a whole new can of worms, doesn't
I
it?
know, right? That's what I was thinking.
I
Yeah.
I remember this study done that a while ago. One of the reasons why people aren't open and willing to approach others or open up lines of communication with others is because they believe that the other person doesn't want to talk to them,
That is
right?
100% true for me.
Right. We're
Yep.
like, dude, that person does not want to be bothered with me and my stuff, and they're not interested in me. So there was this study that was done where they had multiple social settings and they asked everybody as they arrived, like, what do you think the chances are that and like how many people in this group of 100 or whatever do you think would be interested in talking to or would want you to talk to them? And they'd
Mm,
say, like, out of 100, maybe like 5, 10, right?
yeah.
But then they inverted it, right? And then the question was similarly asked, like, how many people would like it if the other person, if this random person opened up the lines of communication with them. And it turned out it was like 95 out of 100.
Wow.
Like
Wow.
everybody wants it. Everybody wants it, right? But we're
Yeah.
all sort of like closed off to each other somehow.
It's so interesting. Yeah, yeah. And there's especially, these days, like there's so many things that are just so starkly divisive.
Oh yeah.
And so I'm sure that drives that, incorrect belief even more. But what's been so beautiful is that, I've been talking to people who otherwise I really would just pass.
Yeah.
And those tend to be,
Yeah.
like middle-aged white dudes
Yeah.
who like, maybe they just come out of their truck and I'm kind of like, like I don't want to talk to you. Then I have like and they've actually been very sweet conversations, I talked to the security guard, um, uh, talked to like the food workers, so it's like we're all just trying to get by and we all want happiness. And so yeah, it's like, why can't we just offer that to each other?
And not only that, but so that divisiveness that you talked about, it gets exaggerated and blown out of
Yeah.
proportion because it turns out that we also have common ground with every single human being out there, and
Yeah,
actually a lot of common ground,
I know. Isn't
right?
that
But
frustrating?
but that gets overshadowed by the tiny little aspects of us that where it's different.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right, right.
Wow, congratulations. It sounds like
Thank
a
you.
gift to Llama, and he give just like in the tradition where you give a gift to a teacher and they'll sometimes give it right back to you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think that's somewhat what the like the mantra recitation is about
Yes,
too.
that's right.
Is that like, yes, we're doing it for him, but it's our training that we're doing actually. And
Because
like,
it's and again it satisfies his wishes because his
right,
wish is for us
right. To be
to
free. Yeah.
yeah to be liberated, and
Yeah.
therefore us giving that to him is in fact for him and us.
Yep. The
Yeah,
best gift is our practice.
that's
Hmm.
right, that's right. Oh,
Hmm.
so cool.
Yeah. Well, I didn't hear much about your training other than, we were talking about the heat, but what's going on for you?
Well, so yeah, it was interesting. I went on this vacation a little while ago and was not meditating regularly. And then I found it, even though I've meditated since coming back, I was having a hard time getting back into like a regular sort of rhythm. And I felt really, like kind of out of sorts. Like I don't know, it just started to show like I don't know, like I guess, the hand started coming back, so to speak,
Sure.
like this strong sort of sense of self that is, I don't know, like these like it just felt like perturbed, right? Like not completely like, trip and fall sort of thing, but just like whoa, unwavering, sort of off balance a little bit. And I was talking to my partner. I was like, man, I've got some stuff I really want to talk to Lama about. I hope, like at my next Darshan with him, I feel like it would be really helpful. Because she was like, yeah, you seem, she knows me. So she's like, you
Hmm.
seem off. Right. And I was like, yeah, I really feel like it would be really helpful for me to talk to him. And then like 10 minutes later, I got a message saying somebody had canceled their next day's darshan
No
appointment
way.
with them, and would I like to take their place? And I was like, yeah, of course. So I go in, and it was like it was just so he's like a doctor, right?
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
just like I come in, I'm like, hey, I'm off balance, and he's like, let's get you into balance, and
Yeah.
and I left, and I was just like, wow, like wow. But
Yeah.
I cleared up like he just squeegeed my windshield, you know? And I got home and my partner's like, so, you kind of jokingly like say, y'all cured now? And I was like, yeah, actually.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, truly, really.
I got the tune up.
Yeah, I got the tuna. It was I'm so grateful, so grateful. It was really nice. And separately from that, oh, and so my meditation practice, I'm getting back into it. It's good. We're good.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
but separately from that, what's really kind of been fun lately, like like I like to play with AI stuff, right? AI
Mhm.
making music and stuff on AI. So I am now like one of the like I've gotten into I don't know what it is. Maybe it's like my ADHD or something, but I what I've been doing is I've been taking prayers and Buddhist prayers, songs, advice, whatever, all kinds of stuff. Things like Shantideva's prayer, like all the 8 verses of mind training, all this good stuff, right? And I've been putting it and setting it to song, to
Yeah.
music, right? And it is so much fun because it's like an outlet for me. It's better than like watching, like there's nothing, I don't know, instead of playing video games, that's what I'm doing. And
Yeah.
then what's so cool about it is because of this sort of obsession, I'm not only like introduced to new text as well. So the Lotsawa House, I think that's how you say it, website with has just tons of great Tibetan masters, texts by all kinds of teachers. And so I've like hunting on there for different things that I think would be kind of cool. And so I'm coming across like new texts. And then what happens is while I'm working on the song, of course, I'm having to really pay attention, like to the lyrics and how they're spelled, and so it's phonetically proper and all that, and
Mhm.
listening to it again and again to get the right song, get it to sound the way that I want, and then because it sounds good to my ear, I play this stuff like I'm working out at the gym and I'm just like rocking out, like listening to
Nice.
great music, and it's all these texts. And what's fascinating about it is that even the text, like for example, 8 verses of mind training. I've read this. Oh, let's go back even better. Foundation of all good qualities, right? So
Mhm.
by Lama Tsongkhapa. I've read this every day for a long time, right? And yeah, I kind of, yeah, I get the repetition is helpful and all of that, and I kind of get it. I've had conversations with people about it and all this, but it hasn't really sunk in, right? But then because I'm like listening to, I hear different things. I'm like driving down the road, listening to this music, rocking out, and so I
Yeah.
hear it again and again. The repetition is like somehow it sinks through different channels, right? It gets in, it
Yeah.
penetrates a little bit deeper and differently.
Yeah, that's so cool. And well, music is a really powerful tool. So that makes sense that it's hitting in a different way.
It's totally hitting in a
Right.
different way. I'm so
Yeah,
excited. Yeah,
that's
yeah.
awesome. Oh, that's really good to hear. And I also love that that's just like your hobby right now.
Yeah, oh
How
my gosh.
great.
It's so much fun, so much fun. And so
Yeah.
and I'm just grateful that I get to that all of these, that all these teachers took the time to like compose this and write it down, and then other people took their time to translate it accurately. Other people took the time to put it on a website and make it available, right? And then here I'm this beneficiary of all this wonderful stuff, right? It's easy, it's open, it's free, it's accessible, and then to be able to take that and like put it into a format that's pleasant and enjoyable by me and even some others, like,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's cool.
It's awesome. Well, it sounds like there's a whole like chain of joyful effort there, starting from the first master that laid down the words and then how important it is to preserve it. People over the ages, with joyful effort have been
Yeah,
keeping those words going. And so you're
heck
part of
yeah.
that.
Maybe at some point in the distant future, some kid will be like, I heard this old school song on the internet and it brought me to the Dharma.
Yeah, yeah, that's the thing is that, yeah, we put these things out into the universe. These wholesome efforts and activities is like it's going to reach people.
Ripples. It
Most
ripples.
definitely.
I
Yeah.
actually, you know what's funny? I took one of the songs, it was the song of calling the guru from afar, and
Mm.
I posted it on a Buddhist subreddit, a link to it, and a decent number of people appeared to like it. And one person was like, "It's been so long. I remember this, I remember this dearly." And like whatever, I haven't been practicing. It's been so long, but this really rekindled something for me. And it's so sweet,
Oh,
like they're just even just like one person, right? To have a little positive like change in their aspiration or something like,
yep,
feels so good.
absolutely. Good work, Daniel. That's
Nice, nice.
fantastic.
Yeah, I have to be careful though because not everybody wants to hear my stuff.
Well, I mean, that's in everything, right? Is that, we can't be liked by everyone.
No,
But yeah, those who do like it, that's meaningful.
totally.
That's why there's
Totally.
so many different ways to learn and to be taught.
That's right.
Yeah,
Yeah, good stuff. Well, we have one cool way to learn and get taught.
it's
i-
true. I love this way.
This way with the random Lojong slogans. Is it time?
It's time. Yeah,
All
I think
right,
we're
let's do
ready.
it. Let's do it. Here we go. I love this, by the way. That was such a great idea, Jack, just to introduce the Lojong slogans into our show.
It's so fun.
It is. It is. I'm going to push the big orange button here. All right.
Oh, learn the three difficult points.
Hmm,
Oh, is this new to us?
it is.
So let's see. So Charlie Kyabgon, Charlie Rinpoche is an incredible teacher. And he comes up a lot when we're reading the Lojong slogans, because he wrote this book, The Practice of Lojong, Cultivating Compassion Through Training the Mind. And I really recommend, if you haven't read anything from Charlie Rinpoche, he he teaches to or he taught to Western students in Australia and all around the world. But he has just a very clear style. And I find him really approachable. So I recommend. But let's see what he says here about learn the three difficult points. The 3 points are: one, recognizing conflicting emotions; two, managing conflicting emotions; and three, eliminating conflicting emotions.
Mm.
Okay, so these are some difficult points, aren't they? So
Yeah.
first is recognition, right? Which if we don't have that, we're pretty lost. We're
You
pretty
know, right. And the thing is that that aspect of it, it's strange to think, but it's true that so many people, including myself for a long time and sometimes still, are just caught in the emotion and it's self-identified, it's identified with self. It is
yes.
I am mad, for
Yeah.
example. I'm angry, right? We even say it that way. I
Yeah.
am this dominant emotion, whatever it is. And we don't see it as like, oh no, it's a temporary state that's created by causes and conditions, and then sort of take a step back and like look at it and see how to manage it, right?
hmm
Yeah.
hmm
That
Yeah. No, that is interesting that we so strongly identify with them. Um, and
What do you think the dis sorry, what do you think the
yeah,
distinction is between managing and eliminating?
that's it. Yeah. I feel like that is so layered. Um, and there might be different views on that based on which kind of school or vehicle you're speaking from.
Sure. Yeah. What about
So
yours? Just your own
for
thing.
me, when
Yeah.
I look at that, let's see. So managing conflicting emotions for me would be that, so once I've recognized them, I'm able to work with them to a point where they're not controlling my behavior. Whereas I think eliminating would mean that I no longer experience like the kind of anger or sadness um, when kind of like engaging with something that would make me feel those things
Yeah.
otherwise. But at the same time, like I don't really think that a Buddha doesn't feel sadness, or that someone who's enlightened doesn't feel feelings, like
Maybe
I
they're
don't think
not
that's true.
conflicting,
Yeah, yeah, maybe yeah, exactly. Okay, so that's a cool idea is that yeah, maybe they just don't feel conflicted about them.
right?
Um, interesting.
Because if one thing I've heard said, you know, before is that like it's not that the emotions are just pure energy and they are innocent and there's nothing they're neither good nor bad. It's
Yeah.
literally just pure energy. And that or maybe not pure, but it's energy regardless, either way. And that's I think a key to the sort of the managing and working with it, where like it's conflict sort of like waves, right? Like if the waves are crashing over you, right, and you're drowning in them, then of course, you're maybe not even recognizing them because you're drowning, right? Like there's not much you can do about it. Can't even
Yeah.
see the wave because you're underwater. But then the managing might be, like somehow like actually like getting up and over it, right? Like or diving under it or whatever the case might be. And maybe
Mm-hmm.
the elimination is like surfing it,
Mm.
like
Oh, I like
working with
that.
it. Yeah, like I
There
don't
you
know.
go.
It is kind of interesting. It's strong, like not strong. It's true that these emotions are so dominant in our lives, right? We're these terribly emotional creatures, but it doesn't have to be terribly troublesome.
Yeah. Well, and I think we're going to be talking about that
Yeah,
tonight when we're talking
yeah.
about humans, but we got to take a look at this carving because this is just like exquisite. What is this?
This is the fasting Buddha.
Oh my gosh.
It looks like Mara's the defeat of Mara story, right?
Wow.
It looks like kind of like maybe like Mara's forces coming at him here all around him.
Yeah, that is incredible.
It's a beautiful
Please check
carving.
out this
Oh,
random Lojong slogan generator we have on the Lions for Dharma Center website because every time you pick a random slogan, there will also be a random piece of Buddhist art that is just really stunning. And
Yeah.
so yeah, check it out.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Awesome.
What are we talking about?
I guess we're talking about us, huh? We're talking about humans. We've been introducing the six realms, and we started out kind of wonky. We started out with animals, and then we went down. We went down to the hungry ghosts realms, and then the hell realms last week, and now we're popping back up. We're going to a more fortunate place, yet a place where we certainly still experience a lot of suffering, don't we? Us humans.
Indeed, indeed, and conflicting emotions and all that.
Inflicting emotions, yes. Um, there's a Chenrezig sadhana where you kind of go through all the six realms and just say Om Mani Padme Hum and just thinking about each realm and all the beings within them. And for the human realm, um, the scripture before you do your mantras describes that realm as being one just of constant toil. So
That
it
sounds right.
sounds right, right? Like I when I really look at my day, there's not even my rest is in some way kind of like
Yeah.
effort. Because this body that has to be maintained has to be put down to sleep.
Yeah.
And then so this is a realm of constant toil. And what gets us here, Daniel?
Oh my gosh. Good karma.
Yeah. And a little, yeah, it's like kind of we have the sweet spot.
That's right. I mean, that's exactly it. People oftentimes equate Buddhism with lots of discussions about suffering, which is true, right? Some people even say, oh, Buddhism just says life is suffering. It's not exactly true.
Right?
But like it turns out that partially because of the level of suffering that we experience, it is, as you said, sort of a sweet spot. So we haven't yet, talked about the higher realms, right? The asuras and the gods, right?
Mhm.
We'll talk about them the next 2 weeks, but they're higher realms in the sense that it's tends to be more positive, right, in terms of their life experiences, especially the gods, right? Incredibly exquisite, pleasurable, long, long, long lives, all this good stuff, right? But that extreme is just sort of like the opposite extreme from the hellish experiences that we've already talked about, and that those both of those extremes are unfortunate from the standpoint that it mo precludes or mostly precludes those beings from practicing Dharma.
Totally.
Right.
Yeah, right.
And so because of that, because we have just the sort of the right amount of suffering, and the right amount
Goldilocks.
and the right amount of pleasure, all of that,
Yeah.
right? Like because it's such a blend right in the middle of it, it's the opportune time. I, I mean, I've heard it. I've heard different accounts, but some say it's the only realm from which you can escape the wheel of samsara. I'm not saying that from any kind of a doctrinal standpoint. I'm just saying I've heard that said. But at the same time, it's who knows, possibly an ant can also attain enlightenment. I don't know. But
Yeah. It
but
does seem like when you think about the other realms and, for example, last week when we were talking about the hell realms, where it's like, how could you really have any moment of clarity when you're experiencing that much suffering and pain? Um, but then I kind of wonder too, is that like, is there also like there's got to be some way that like of course the karma burns off and then maybe you go into a different realm, but I wonder if for some special being who maybe ends up in a hell realm, if there is kind of this moment of like I don't want to be here. We got to get out of here. If there is some kind of
Yeah, I
little
wonder. I've
thing
wondered
like
that.
that.
I've had the same kind of, yeah. And if
Yeah.
there was something that they were like, they remembered, oh my gosh, I need to at least try to help one of these other beings or something to
Yeah.
that effect.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I don't know. I don't remember
Yeah.
the last time I was in any of those realms.
Right. And here we are in this realm, and we have plenty of beings that we could be helping here,
Yeah, well,
totally.
yeah, well, supposedly we've been cycling in and out of all of them. So we've been gods, we've been, hungry ghosts, we've been animals, we've been all of those things. So, this, however, is a fortunate birth, at least from the Buddhist perspective. It's incredibly fortunate. I mean, both in terms of, if you think about it, just as the two realms that we're keenly sort of aware of, the animals and the humans, there are many more animals than there are humans, right? And we already talked about why it's not beneficial to be born as an animal.
Yeah.
And even if we limit births only to those, like a choice between those two realms, there's many more beings being born as animals than there are being born as humans.
Yeah.
But if you go beyond that and you extend into all of these other realms, the chances of being born as a human are slim, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And especially a precious human life. So there's sort of a little bit of a differentiator in terms of, like, every human has has this Buddha nature, right? Has these good qualities, these things that they share, right? But practicing Dharma is what is makes life precious, right? In a
Mm.
way, like, when we're able to use the life to practice goodness and accumulate virtue and to wake up, and like, that's when this life becomes precious. And since Dharma practice is how you get there, uh, that makes it special when we have the right circumstances, that allow for that Dharma practice, which you and I
Right.
both have. So we have precious human lives. We
Right.
shouldn't waste it.
Yeah, and yeah, I know there's like eight kind of conditions for what makes a human life precious. Right? Or there's some, I can't
Yeah,
remember
there's always
the
these numbers.
advantages, or yeah,
Yeah.
these lists and whatnot. No, it's great.
Well,
Um,
yeah, I think we talked about some of them all just briefly already, but what I saw were two lists, one of which was subdivided. So one of them were the eight freedoms, and then
okay, yeah,
there's the, what do they call them, the 10 advantages, which are broken down into these two categories. So the freedoms, basically, I heard, I heard this. I saw a YouTube video with Yongey Mingyur Rinpoche. And before we go into like these lists and stuff, if it's okay with you, I just wanted to say what he had to say.
yeah,
First, he was talking about, sort of as a foundational practice, how important it is to have appreciation, right? Like, in fact, it's one of the four thoughts that turn the mind to Dharma is recognition, having appreciation for this life. And he put it in really simple terms. He was like, we have breath. We take that for granted, but we have breath, and that's pretty amazing, and
mhm,
then we have like senses, right? Like, even if we don't have all of our senses, we have some senses. That's pretty cool, right? And then we have this basic goodness. And then this is the part that I really enjoyed. He said, we have freedom. And he said, we have the freedom to become free.
yeah,
And
hmm.
I really like that, right? I was like, that's a cool way to put it. We have freedom to become free. Huh.
That's really cool. Yeah, yeah, I like that. Well, I think that, you don't necessarily need to be a Buddhist to be practicing some kind of Dharma, right? Because Dharma is like truth, right? It's and so we're not saying exclusively that you can't have a human life that's meaningful without practicing Buddhism. I just want to make that clarification. But then what these kind of like advantages, or what was the other one you're saying,
So there, yeah, the eight freedoms and then the
the eight
10
freedoms and the
advantages.
10 advantages, those do include things related to the Buddha and the Buddhist teachings, because um, Buddhists believe that this is like, if you want to be completely liberated, and not be stuck in this cyclic existence, then the Dharma, the teachings of the Buddha really are like the path to that. And so one of the ones that I think about a lot is that, I'm living in a time where not only was there a Buddha, however many hundreds and hundreds of years ago, but then his teachings were maintained. They lived on through his disciples, and now I live. I don't speak the language that the Buddha spoke, but I am reading his teachings because of all these amazing people who have kept the Dharma alive and are teaching to one another and translating. And it's just, that one can be really powerful to me. It can actually kind of open my heart, where it's just like, wow, how am I so blessed to be like the recipient of this? It's just
Dude,
amazing.
right? When you really sit with it, like how freaking precious, really truly precious that is. And you make the point that, so you define, you mentioned um two, possibly three of the what's called the five circumstantial advantages. So the 10 advantages are broken down into circumstantial and then personal. So the
Mm,
circumstantial ones that you mentioned was that the Buddha has come. You live in an age in which the Buddha has
yeah.
has a Buddha has arisen, and then secondly that there are these teachings that have survived, right? And they survive because there's followers of the teachings. So those are three of these circumstantial ones. But I found this one really interesting.
Mm,
So the first of these circumstantial advantages is that a Buddha has come, right? In our age. Cool.
yeah.
The second one is he has taught the Dharma.
Mm.
That's so right? So
Yeah.
it's kind of
Rather than keeping
fascinating
it. Yeah.
because it implies that a Buddha can arise but not teach. And when
Yeah.
if you think about it, if you think back to that the story of his enlightenment, right, his awakening, there was a period of time where he wasn't sure about teaching.
Yeah.
He didn't think that it would work.
It's like, this is too much for people.
They're not
They're
going to get
not
it.
gonna get it. And how, with all these different these different types of humans and the way they learn, like, I just can't, there's yeah, yeah.
Right.
So
So like the
right.
second point is like not only did he show up, so he had the potential, right? But then he actually, it became active, right? There was the potential because he was an enlightened man. And second, like there was this active component where he taught for a long period of time. And second or third rather, there the people, the disciples, and so on and so forth, the people who have carried on the tradition, right? So that the Dharma has made it down through thousands of years to us. Like, how freaking cool is that?
Yeah. We're extremely fortunate. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I think, um, I wonder if they're happening right now. There's worlds of humans, whether that's like alternate universe, or I don't know, just somewhere, a planet elsewhere, where, yeah, maybe there was a Buddha, but like that Buddha just was like, nah, I
I'm
think this
good.
time around, just gonna keep it to myself.
Well, okay. Now I'm not. I don't have it. I might be entering somewhat dangerous territory just because I know enough to be dangerous, but not enough to be authoritative on this. I
I feel that
think
way a lot.
isn't it somewhat insinuate? I think it's the Pratyeka Buddhas, or like there's essentially like sort of like mini Buddhas, right? In the sense that they reach a certain level of enlightenment, right? So I think the Pratyeka Buddhas do it without teachings, right? They're like they don't learn it from somebody else. Um, but that there are in fact these beings that can be enlightened who do not go on to teach.
Yeah,
Okay?
yeah.
There is, I Anyway, I'm glad that Gautama, after waking up, decided to become a guru.
Gosh, me too.
Well,
Yeah.
it's even we use the phrase Guru Buddha, right?
Hmm.
Like,
Hmm.
but why would we say Guru Buddha if Buddha means also teacher? No, it doesn't. They're different things.
Yeah.
The teacher and the
Yeah.
yeah, fun stuff.
Enlightened teacher. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's cool. That's cool. Someday we should talk about the word guru and the meaning of that word because uh, there's just some beautiful language around it. Like I know one translation is like heavy with positive qualities.
Hmm.
Which
Hmm.
is just like such a cool way to put it. But yeah, another conversation.
Heavy with pot. Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense. Yeah.
Well, and then so there's these five personal advantages. And I mean, something I think about often is like, yeah, I'm pissed off at my country for so many things. I'm mad at what we we've done to the world. And so I shit on this country a lot, you know, I think for good reason. But I have this incredible opportunity here to learn and in the language that I can learn in. And so that also makes me feel grateful. Because if I was in um, you know, I don't know, like so many places around the world where there aren't religious freedoms, that would not be as easy. Or if I was, a Tibetan monk in captivity, yeah, from, captured by the Chinese or something, like not being, you couldn't practice openly. There's so many stories of these monks that were just so incredible after being captured. But so we get to have this leisure in our training where we're not kind of constantly having to fend off these kinds of things, or where we don't even have uh, accessibility to any Dharma. And so, yes, as much as I'm frustrated with my country, I'm also really grateful that I can practice the Dharma. That I really there's plenty of Dharma around me. In Sacramento and up here in Washington. So that's amazing.
God bless America.
You butthead.
You know, I think it's interesting to consider that. So the Dharma is still relatively new here. It's
Yeah.
super accessible throughout the United States, right? We even have, people in, that are part of our Sangha who live in like Oklahoma, right?
Yeah.
And stuff
Yeah.
like that, right? So it's throughout. Um, but if you think about it, it was not that long ago. So these teachings have been around for thousands of years. Um, they haven't been available, certainly not in the English language, for a long time. And still, there are many teachings that are not available in English, right? People are working really hard on changing that. But yeah, I mean, it wasn't that long ago. This is a
Yeah, just
relatively
like
new
60
phenomenon.
years, right?
That's right.
60 or so years. Yeah.
Right.
No,
Right.
that's amazing.
Yeah, and there, like you said, I mean, there's plenty of places in this world right now where you would not want to be, caught practicing this, right? There would be severe obstacles to sort of practicing and promoting the Dharma, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like I've never really like when I've told someone that I'm a Buddhist, I can't think of a time where I've gotten like a weird reaction from
No?
someone. Even when talking to like Christians or something,
Yeah.
or and my mom, when I came out to my mom as
Yeah.
Buddhist, there's just kind of it's like yeah, it's just interesting. There's like, okay, well, that's cool. It's kind of like a philosophy. It's a way of life,
Yeah.
people kind of see it that way. And it's like, okay, yeah, I can have you see me that way. Sure.
Yeah. Buddhists are seen sort of as peaceful,
Right,
easygoing,
right.
like
Like,
whatever.
why would you be mad at that?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And why would you? I mean, come on.
Yeah.
No, so
Yeah,
good. Yeah, I agree with you. I've never had any issues with it. I've never, people might, they don't even, not even like raise an eyebrow.
I know.
Just like,
Yeah,
sure, okay, good for you.
yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
Yeah.
The strongest reaction I've gotten has been like, "Oh my gosh, that's so cool! Like, I want to know more about Buddhism," you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's, yeah. So we're definitely fortunate in that sense, like like that we have the circumstances to, to learn, understand, practice Dharma. That's
yeah,
right, regardless of whether it's because of our geography or culture or whatever. Yeah.
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 And I think like in thinking about the human realm, like we have to think about all humans and knowing that all humans are not in these same conditions. That should also spur um for me what it spurs is like this feeling of responsibility, where it's like, well, then I must continue my training because so many humans are just suffering immensely. And yet we have so much capacity. And so like what a loss to to have the karma to enter a human body, but then not be able to practice the Dharma for whatever reasons. Like, wow, what a terrible loss. And so there is this kind of sense of responsibility that comes up in me that like, well, I really need to train so that you know, I can help people. I can teach people and teach from my own kind of, how I'm living my life. So
Well,
yeah.
isn't it? It's interesting because the just the very odds of being born human at all are quite slim.
Yeah.
And to be born in such for under such fortunate circumstances, right? Both the time and the place is remarkable, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, like we really like we it cannot be stressed enough how rare this opportunity is, right? And so it's easy to think like, all right, there's 8 billion people, and out of those 8 billion people, there's a few million people or whatever who are actively, maybe, whatever, there's maybe like 15 million people that are practicing Buddhism of some variety, and maybe there are more who have the opportunity but aren't taking that opportunity, and then there's a whole bunch who don't have the circumstances, whether they're personal advantages or circumstantial advantages, because the personal aspect of it, is not just like time and place, but also our karma, our mindset, our lifestyle, things like that are conducive or not conducive depending on the situation. And so, like it's easy to think about it in terms of like us compared to like 8 billion people. But if you expand it, not just like to like beyond the current time, right? And you look back over time, how many there's been, I think I heard is like 25 billion people have existed or have died already,
Mm.
right? Uh,
Wow,
out
that's
of
cool.
something, I think it's 25 billion or something
That's an
like
amazing
that,
number.
right? And many, 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 many of those did not have they either didn't exist during a time that a Buddha had arrived, or they didn't have the circumstantial or personal advantages in order to practice Dharma.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like that's in like now the odds, it changes. Even if we're not even talking about being born in animal realms or God realms or hell realms or anything, just human realms
Just
that
human
have the right
time.
circumstances, right? Yeah, this is
Yeah.
rare. Like we won the lottery.
Yeah, we did. Well, and we we created the fortune, through previous lives' actions. And so that too, that I feel when I think about it that way, it's like I feel also responsible to past lives where it's like, y'all must have worked really hard, because I'm in like really fortunate circumstances right now, and I do not want to F that up because like, your lives were probably really hard back then, or
Yeah,
whenever future it's time
yeah,
is,
right.
but so there is when I contemplate that, it's like, Jack, just, you got to keep going.
You gotta keep going, and then of course, one thing that Lama was just talking about this the other day about how like we, at least here, Western practitioners, sort of like we focus on the here and now, right? Like all about, like, we're practicing now, we're gonna be enlightened in this lifetime, and da, 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 da,
Mm,
whatever, right? It's all about this now. And he's like, actually traditionally, and it's important to keep this in mind, right? That what we're mainly practicing is for future lifetimes,
yeah.
for beings that we don't even know yet. Just like we don't know those we don't have personal yet. Some, I don't anyway. I'll speak from personal experience. I don't know those experiences of beings that led, to this, the continuity of consciousness that has arisen here, right? Like
Mhm.
I don't have any awareness of that. I don't know what I know. They, as you said, I know they had to work diligently. They had to do some good stuff, right? They, to
Yeah.
for me to be here now. And the same is true for these strangers in the future, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't know them, but I want them to have these same opportunities, these same advantages, these same freedoms to become free.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and we also one of the reasons we say our dedication prayers is because, along with, the fact that we're going to be coming back, we also really want our teachers to come back.
Yeah.
We want our gurus to come back and teach us, because we
Drag them
still
back kicking and screaming.
yeah, we need them. And so maybe they'd be able to pass on into nirvana or whatever that looks like. But we really hope that they stay here. Come back to Sacramento, come back to Washington.
That's right. That's right. I remember Lama one time saying something, we were talking about just that. And I made a quip. He had said something like, I'll come looking for you. And I was like, I'm gonna come looking for you. And
Yeah.
then and he was like two arrows meeting in the night.
Oof.
Oh, it kind of
Yeah.
it stayed. I was like, damn, right. I'm gonna
Yeah.
work towards that. I want that to happen.
Yes, we want that to happen. Yeah. Daniel,
Jack.
I'm glad, our circumstances have led us to these meetings. I'm so
Yeah.
grateful for you all the time.
Right back at you. We too, two arrows meeting in the night.
I know
So
it.
I thank all previous versions of both of us. Uh, thank you all for allowing me to know Jack and to have these nice chats.
Thanks, Daniel, and all of your consciousness. Uncle and forward.
All
We'll
of
see
them, the
you
whole
again.
thing, the rippling effect, all the way back, all the way forward.
Yep. Well, my friend, we gotta go, but I'll
All
see you
right.
again next week. I'm looking forward to it.
Need to wait.
We're
Are we
on to, yeah,
assured?
assurance.
Yeah. All right. I don't
I
know
resonate
anything.
with this
I don't know.
realm.
I barely know anything. I'm gonna have to do a little research.
Nice. Yeah, yeah. It'll be interesting. They're envious beings
Envious beings. Oh gosh.
and power
I
hungry.
know I was an Ashura in a previous life.
Oh, I think a recent one for me.
Yeah. It's still fresh. It's still
Yeah, it's
lingering.
fresh. It's fresh. All right.
All
Take care,
right. Bye,
everybody.
Jack. Bye,
Bye.
everybody.